welcome to the Gamblin Gauchos. I'm Rob Bro. He's Kyle Jacobson. He's Money Mainville. So another Sunday night stream here as part of the Republic of Football feed with Dave Campbell's. And just another day in the life, man. It's a dream come true that we get to do this every Sunday with the boys and the girls out there listening. And just another week, a bunch of winning this week, some space talk that we'll get to. But we'll start with an incredible comeback at West Virginia. It was 20-14. I sent in the Discord at maybe 10-4. What'd I say? 20-4. It was 20-4. 16-point deficit, I think is what I was trying to say. But at like 10-4, 10-2, maybe, I sent in the Discord, game over. This game is over. No chance. And they chipped away. How'd they do it, Money?
Yeah, I think a lot of it in that first half came down to Joe Toussaint and Darion Williams, who both had really good first halves and honestly really good games. I know Darion Williams kind of cooled off in terms of shooting in the second half, but he was still really productive across the board. Joe Toussaint, I think, had arguably his best game as a Red Raider, definitely his best game of the Big 12 slate, in my opinion. But the return to West Virginia was certainly an opportunity he took the most of. Had a lot of family in attendance, so good for him to kind of put on that performance with a lot of his folks in the crowd. But yeah, I mean, to be down 20-4, it was almost like, hey, are you hungover from Texas? But even that was a little bit strange to me, because usually when you see a hangover like that, it's when, you know, there's a lot of juice and energy around a game and you play really hard for 40 minutes and don't just come away with a win. But you got stomped against Texas, and so was kind of expecting some fire out of the gates, but kind of as has always been the case with this team, doesn't really matter where the score is at. If it's close with, 8 to 7 minutes left in a game, they've got a chance every single time. And credit to them for kind of keeping it within arm's reach at halftime. I think it was a 6-point game going into the half, which felt nothing short of a miracle considering the start where you were 1 for 10 from the field. But again, I think a lot of it, really, really good game from Joe Toussaint. Really needed to see that from him. And then another really productive outing from D5.
Yeah, I keep telling Kyle he's cursed Joe Toussaint, but he did the reverse curse in the Discord this week. So congratulations to Kyle. You're off the schneid. That was Joe Toussaint's best game as a Red Raider. He's back, and hopefully he can go on a little run here of a couple of games, maybe, 10 games in a row. Maybe just go full Kimball Walker into the Big 12 tournament and get all the way to the national championship. We'll see. Great game, though, from Toussaint. He looked decisive. And I think his biggest problem in the last month and a half has been indecisiveness. I thought he looked really decisive. And you know what? For what it's worth, so did Pop, taking 60-foot jumpers. But he hit a couple. So hit 2, right? 2 threes in one game. Did he get 3? I think he just had 2. That's double his output from the last 4 games, I think. I will say this, too. At the end of the half, you get to a 2-point game. And I'm like, all right, we're back in this. And then it balloons to 11 really quickly. And then you kind of fight back to 6. I think at 6 points, they're 8 for 11 from 3 in the first half. I'm thinking you have a really good chance. What do you think at halftime, Kyle?
Well, first off, I do think that decisive is a good descriptor of Joe Toussaint. And for a while there, he was like the dog that caught the car whenever he got into the lane. It was like, great. Usually when you get into the lane, great things happen. Like some help side defense comes over and somebody's open for a dish, or you got a high percentage shot, you get fouled. But he would seem to like get into the lane. It was like, what now? So that was good to see. Yeah, I don't know. I guess 2 trains of thought. One is that this team has overcome huge deficits and these quote-unquote kill shot runs over and over and over this season. I think we have more Big 12 wins when surviving at least one kill shot run than we have in games where we didn't have to survive a kill shot run. So on one hand, I'm like, well, yeah, get it to 8 by halftime, and then that's plenty of time if you can make some adjustments. But on the other hand, we've seen what this team looks like without Warren Washington, and I was kind of like, I don't know what this is going to look like if we are able to come back. Thankfully, Joe Toussaint, like you said, played one of his best games as a Red Raider. Chance McMillan looks like he's back. He was kind of slumping for a few games. We got the old Chance McMillan back. And Damarian Williams, I think, continues to round into your best player. So all that came together at the same time in the second half. And they mentioned this on the radio broadcast quite a bit, that at a certain point, a team like West Virginia that isn't playing for anything in terms of postseason, they are going to get demoralized in a spot like that when they collapse a little bit. Once Tech stretched out to a 6 or 8 point game, you just kind of like saw the fight leave that team. And so pretty incredible that we keep winning games like this, although it's wild. Even when it was 20-4, you still had better than a 20% chance to win, according to BPI, which is the win probability I always go back and look at. So, like, on one hand, just another game. We've won 5 or 6 Big 12 games like this now. But on the other hand, I think you showed a lot by doing it without Warren Washington, and a lot of individual players kind of got exactly what you needed from them, and you're hoping that they can maintain that form here as you head toward the postseason, which now looks like it's pretty much a lock.
Before we get back into the nitty-gritty of the game, looking around to the rest of the Big 12, Jamal Shed, another game winner, this one with 0.4 seconds left. If he made that 3 to just win in regulation against Baylor, Jamal Shed probably going down as one of the most clutch seasons of all time. I think he has 3 game winners right now. Would have been 4. Should have been 4, really. They beat Baylor anyways. Baylor hammers Kansas. Kansas now 2 games in a row they've lost. 9-7 in the Big 12 with 2 games left. Interesting. Iowa State beating UCF in Orlando. Oklahoma State losing to Texas, obviously, in Austin. Cincinnati beating Kansas State by 2, outlasting them, being tougher. Tyler Perry with 26. And then BYU, this is the game I wanted to get to. BYU pulled the Texas Tech down 100 in the first half. No, down 100 with 16 minutes to go. I think they were legitimately down 15 with 16 minutes to go. With 9 minutes to go, they've cut it to 2. And then with 2 minutes to go, they're up 10. Just dominated TCU in the second half. Good for the Big 12, I guess. BYU looking whatever against TCU. TCU, I guess, not good for the Big 12, falling apart like that. But if the season ended today with those results, BYU the 5 seed, Kansas the 6 seed, and this is in the Big 12 tournament. The top 4 seeds, Houston, Iowa State, Baylor, and Texas Tech. That's if the season ended today, and you still get to play Baylor. But I think if you beat Oklahoma State and Stillwater, you're pretty well locked into that 4 seed in the Big 12 tournament, which is really nice.
Yeah, TCU folding like a lawn chair in that game, got outscored 32-16 in the last 10 minutes of the game, which is absurd. Credit to BYU. I posted a tweet today off of the Big 12 kind of conference standings as they are right now. The Big 12 deleted that tweet for some reason. Maybe they had the seeding wrong. But kind of comparing where teams are at right now compared to their preseason ranking, BYU is the biggest overachiever in the league. They're plus 8 spots in terms of seeding right now compared to where they were picked in the preseason. Iowa State is plus 5. Texas Tech is plus 4. And then in terms of underachievers, Kansas and West Virginia, both minus 5 spots from where they were slated. And then Texas and Kansas State minus 4. And I think that kind of passes the eye test in terms of, which teams are playing above their promised stock and which teams have kind of fallen short in terms of expectations. But yeah, that Kansas team, even with McCullough back, just the depth, man, they just have absolutely nothing going for them off the bench. And I think that's going to be something to watch come March.
Did Fran Fraschilla say in a game that Texas Tech played that Kevin McCullough wasn't going to play the rest of the year?
think Bill Self said that like 2 days ago,
Okay, and then he played
and then he played.
and had 20 and 10 or something crazy. Okay, all right.
Does anybody? I know their depth sucks, but does anybody in the country have like a better big three than Kansas?
Even Big Four.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking. I was thinking Dickinson, McCullough, and DeJuan Harris.
KJ is a really good piece next to them too.
Yeah, I mean, Dickinson was this guy in the portal that was like considered one of the best players in the country. Then K-Mac was getting Naismith Player of the Year love in the first half of the season. So it's wild that they have those pieces together and like at least as of yet haven't really done much with it. I mean, they're not going to win the Big 12. I guess they'll still be seated pretty high, probably 3 or 4, at worst. And we'll see what they do in March. Like, I guess I'm not one to doubt Bill Self, but a team without depth having to play every other day in consecutive rounds if they do win in March could be a bit of a problem. Like, they might look really good round of 64, not so great round of 32. Same deal in the Sweet 16 Elite 8 if they get that far. But that's wild that they've got that much top-end talent, and they're kind of just like an also-ran in the Big 12 this year.
This is definitively Bill Self's worst Big 12 game team. He's never lost 7 before, and they have 2 games left in the Big 12. He's never lost. He's lost 6. He's lost 5. He's never lost 7, which is just incredible for Bill Self. Really good coach, really good run they went on. But to your point, it doesn't feel like Kansas's worst team. I mean, it feels like they've been worse than this. Maybe the Big 12 is just so much better now than it was 10 years ago when Kansas used to run through it like butter every year. And if you're a Kansas fan, I think you'd push back on the KJ Adams being the fourth of the Big 3. They don't like that guy. They're like, you can't shoot, you can't rebound. I would love to have KJ Adams on my basketball team. They want Kevin McCullough to leave and never come back. I guess they love Hunter Dickinson still, but if you look at other fans in the Big 12 top teams, I know Cyclone Larry thinks he's just a big fat idiot with big feet that can't run. I think Hunter Dickinson's a little better than that, but that's Cyclone Larry's words, not mine. I will just say this. I don't know why on Bracket Matrix there's still a 3 seed, a high 3 seed over Baylor. They're better than Baylor in Bracket Matrix.
I think that'll flip. It's got to. I mean, I think Kansas should be definitely seated behind in terms of the Big 12 teams that are going to make it. They should be behind Houston, Iowa State, and Baylor, like without question. And then I don't know. We'll see how the rest of the season shakes out with everybody else. But I don't know. Unless there's going to be 4 Big 12 teams as top 3 seeds, I just don't see it.
I know they played a great non-con, right? But Houston, Baylor, Iowa State should all obviously be ahead of them in the bracket matrix, which they are. Baylor may be right behind them. Iowa State up to a 2. But it makes how bad Texas Tech's non-conference is so glaring when you see Texas Tech have their best year ever in conference play and go as a 3 seed. But Kansas has lost 3 more games this year in Big 12 play. But because their non-conference is so much different than what Texas Tech puts out, they're going to be a 3 seed as well. So, I don't know. And Kansas basically falls out of bed and gets a 2 seed in the tournament. So a 3 seed or 4 seed is going to be bad for them. But it's just, it's pretty incredible.
Yeah, they had a loaded non-con. They played Kentucky and won. I believe they beat UConn and Tennessee, who all 3 of those teams still doing all right. Lost to Marquette, who's kind of falling apart right now, also not really healthy. But I think they're 7-7 in quad 1 games right now, which is a ton. 14 quad 1 games. It's pretty crazy.
Question: do you think our Arterio Morris would have made a difference? He certainly would have made the team deeper. I don't think that's arguable. I don't remember I was trying to get his stat line from last year at Texas. Averaged 4.5 points a game, a rebound and a half. So not quite as electric as I remember at Texas. He only played 12 minutes a game. So if he plays 20 minutes a game, gets 8 and 5. I mean, that's a pretty big difference. Of course, those 5-star guys take a big jump in year 2 and 3 sometimes.
So I'm just going to lob something out there. Kansas had a great regular season last year. They probably should have been the number 1 overall seed. Forget what their quad 1 wins were. They won like 17 quad 1 games last year. It looked incredible. But they lose in the round of 32. This year, I think it's not far-fetched to say that they're going to be kind of a toss-up in the round of 32. If they are a 4 seed, let's say they get the 5, like that's going to be a game with a pretty close spread, we can imagine. If Bill Self 2 years in a row doesn't get past the round of 32, coming off of their worst season in Big 12 play, with Arizona about to come in as well, you never want to jump the gun on this, especially with a guy like Bill Self. People did this with Nick Saban every time they lost a regular season game for like a decade. They're like, is this the end of the Alabama dynasty? They would like lose to Ole Miss and they'd win the Natty. When are we going to have is Bill Self washed conversation? I'm not saying we should. I'm asking y'all.
Hold on. 206 March 2nd, 2024. Rob Rose Show on Twitter. Is Bill Self washed?
How about that?
I've already started it.
Because, I mean, like backing up to Chris Beard at both Tech and Texas, held his own against Bill Self. He won once at the Fog at Tech. I think he might have done it at Texas, or maybe got to like overtime there. Scott Drew, I think, still loses in the Fog. But in Waco, I feel like Baylor's been kicking their ass. I don't know. Like, just like
Popovich doing so poorly at San Antonio. That was always the thought, right? That Pop was going to retire and Bill Self was going to go to San Antonio. Is that just me thinking that?
I have no idea. I feel like Bill Self was tied to the Rockets a long time ago, like a decade ago.
Yeah, I think that's been a thing. But the problem with Kansas is I guess you can go after whoever you want. You can go get anybody. But who's the next guy up? They thought the FAU guy was, but I think he's in deep talks with Ohio State, or was last week.
If I were them, I mean, I'm probably interviewing 3 guys, but one of them is Ott, especially if they have an Elite 8 type run this year. I would look at his roster construction ability, what he did taking over an 0-18 squad. I know they got bounced earlier than they would have liked last year, but if he has a good tournament run this year with a 2 seed or a 3 seed, whatever they wind up being, I mean, he's a young guy, knows how to do it in this conference. I think he would be near the top of my list. Obviously, they're not going to fire Bill Self, but you're saying like if he goes to the NBA or if he retires or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. I don't know who else they would call it. I think Otts would be on the short list.
I saw a Kansas fan say Fred Hoiberg the other day, but I don't. Is Nebraska going to win a Big 12 or a Big 10 tournament game or something? Is Nebraska good?
I mean, if they win an NCAA tournament game this year, it'll be their first in program history.
They're 21-9 this year, 11-8 in the conference. He's taken them. He's been there 5 years. This is his 5th year there. I did not know that. 7-25, 2-18, 7-23 and 16, 10-22, 16-16, and now 21-9. I mean, that's a pretty good climb in 5 years, going from 2-18 to 11-8.
So we got a couple comments. I'd go after Matt Campbell. Got to.
Stand on.
And then the list: Juwan Howard, Patrick Ewing, Jerry Stackhouse. If we're going to go that route, I think it would be Paul Pierce, right?
Yeah.
If we're looking for somebody kind of from that era that played at Kansas.
Kirk Heinrich.
Nick Collison?
That's what I was trying to think of. Did Kirk Heinrich play Kansas?
Yeah.
I was trying to think of Nick Collison. What'd you say?
Nick Collison.
Nick Collison. I couldn't think of that name for some reason.
Mario Chalmers.
Yeah.
Joel Embiid. Probably not yet.
The Morris twins.
Yeah.
They're retired, though. Close to it.
one of the funnest games, even though it was a loss, that I got to go to as a student. It was still Tubby Smith, and it was the Wiggins Embiid squad that came in. I think they were number 1 in the country, maybe like number 3. And we had them on the ropes. Like Wiggins hit a layup pretty much at the buzzer, like 1 second left to win it. But we were about to beat that Kansas squad. It would have been insane. We were ready to storm the court and everything. It was clutch, honestly.
Nothing will beat Daryl Dora's 30-foot jumper to beat Kansas at home. That was pretty awesome. Oh, what's this new thing? This is a West Virginia fan doing this, but I've seen it a bunch lately in sports. Maybe it's just what do they call them? Zoomer thing? Gen Z, whatever they are. Gen Alpha. What is next? They're like you're bragging about beating a team that sucks so bad. Oh man, that's crazy. My team is 9-22 and you guys won and you're bragging about it. That's crazy. Why offer that your team is bad? I don't that's like the overrated chant. I don't understand it.
Yeah, it's a weird form of cope. I think UCF did that. And,
Yeah.
and what they don't understand is like we're not necessarily celebrating like, oh my God, we beat UCF. It's that we avoided a loss that would have put our NCAA tournament hopes in jeopardy. So it's like
Yeah, you don't win in the Big 12. You avoid losses.
it's not about you specifically. Like had it been Oklahoma State or TCU or anybody, like a Big 12 road win is a Big 12 road win. We don't care how bad you are.
Self had some Chicago Bulls rumors there for a second too. Yeah, wasn't it Self and Adams? The Self and Adams ticket? Go to the Bulls together. That would have been awesome. I'm sure Chicago wouldn't have minded what Adams went through there. They're a little more liberal up there. I could see I could see them going after Jerome Tang. No chance Jerome Tang gets the Kansas job.
Can you imagine?
Maybe Scott Drew, but Scott Drew's been at Baylor for 37 years. Why would he leave at this point? I guess it's Kansas. I don't think Scott Drew leaves either.
If Tang went to Kansas and had to return to Bramlage, which obviously he would,
Oh,
I would go.
Beard level. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be Beard 2.0.
I'm pretty confident saying Jerome Tang will not be at Kansas State next year.
Spicy.
I think Nate Oates will not be at Alabama. I think he'll get a new job. Alabama will need somebody. I think Louisville will hire somebody. If that's Chris Beard, maybe Tang goes to Arkansas after Musselman leaves. Musselman's trying like hell to get out of Arkansas. So I don't know. I just I would say Jerome Tang will not be in the mix. Ask Louisville. Louisville fans think they're getting Scott Drew. Is Louisville a better job than Baylor?
Not right now. I mean,
is he scared of the Big 12?
Historically, I guess, sure, but why would Scott Drew leave Baylor right now? I mean, he's got it absolutely rolling. New arena,
yeah,
they win a ton.
Historical versus past decade, I think, is like for a current coach, I think the past decade is more important than historical.
Yeah, and I think the decade is about the cutoff. I think that was the last time Pitino won at Louisville.
They didn't win.
What?
They didn't win.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, but they were number 1 in the AP poll, right?
Yeah.
Whatever they have that banner for.
Brent, I'm sure as a Kansas State fan, he says Tang isn't going anywhere anytime soon. I'll make that bet with you, Brent. You all did the bronchitis laugh. Drink some hot tea, you hooligans. Feel up. That is my laugh. It's been my laugh since 1996-ish. I was in a park at a library feeding goose, and I laughed like that. And these damn geese, started to chase me through the park. I had to dive into an open minivan sliding door and drive away to get away from these geese. It was like an action movie.
Remember that one time that our friend Luka Doncic said that you were honking like a goose?
Yeah. Yeah, that's me, man. I honk. Back to the Texas Tech game. You don't win that game without Joe Toussaint. I think that's pretty obvious. I think you could probably add D5 into that conversation if you're power ranking guys you needed in that game. But I think number 3, and this could be controversial, was EY. I really think he played really good down the stretch, and Edwards was dominating you. And then EY gets in there and bangs bodies a little bit, and he didn't do much for a big stretch of that game. He was kind of hot at the end too, but I think EY had a really solid game. Did I see that correctly, Money, or am I kind of overinflating just because of how bad you've been in the last couple of games down low?
Yeah, I think offensively, you played some of your best basketball with him on the floor. Had the highest offensive rating of any Red Raider, and he played 17 minutes, which was the fewest of any Red Raider in the game, but that's certainly not an overly small sample size. I think his ability to stretch the floor, even when he's not shooting the three, is really important. Defensively, he kind of got it handed to him on a couple of possessions, but I mean, when you're asking a 6'8" freshman to defend a 6'11" senior and Jesse Edwards, who's played good basketball for pretty much every college basketball season now, that's a tall task. Tech's defensive game plan was certainly to limit that and to kind of just prevent him from getting what he wanted. I guess it worked well enough. I'm still kind of confused as to why they did not go to Raekwon Battle more in the second half. He had me really concerned in the first half, but it's kind of the same thing that happened in the Kansas State game. Like, he completely willed them back into that game in the second half, and in the last 3 minutes and in overtime, I think he got like 2 shots up. And it was pretty much the Kirk Arisa show against Kansas State. But yeah, I thought EY gave you some good minutes, especially with how thin you were in your front court without Warren Washington, and then obviously Kyron Lindsey not making the trip. Robert Jennings got into foul trouble pretty quickly once again, and so I think he was asked to play a little bit of a bigger role and certainly stood up to that task.
Those first 2 fouls on Robert Jennings were absolute bullshit. Sorry, family show, but they were. Hand in the back was the first one. And it was like, come on, that's every trip down the floor, somebody's touching somebody. Anyways, if you got, obviously this is a full 40 minutes because Jennings and Yahalo were on the floor the entire game. One of them was. But if you got 11 points, 8 boards, and an assist from your big man, you'd be pretty happy. Obviously, that's maybe like a 20-minute production instead of a 40-minute production. But I just, early in the game, I thought you're going to get killed. And then later in the game, the big men, I think, really played a pretty pivotal role. And I thought Robert Jennings had some really good offensive rebounds, which is another thing I wanted to talk about. Basically, in 3 wins, you've out-rebounded your opponent in the Big 12. But only in those 3 wins. You've not done it very often. And offensively, you've not out-rebounded anybody except for maybe 1 or 2 teams, you told me, Money?
Yeah, it's only a handful, maybe 4 at most, but I think the biggest margin you've had on offensive boards in a game in terms of your favor has been like +2. So it has not been much. It's certainly not been a strength of this team, but +3, obviously, against West Virginia. Robert Jennings was a big part of that, leading offensive rebounder in the game. Darion Williams had 2 good ones. Chance McMillan, I mean, I think it might be time to have a conversation about him being like the 3rd best rebounder on this team. He seems to get a crazy amount of productions and rebounds every single game. Just a guy that kind of knows how to track the ball, which is something that I mentioned a few episodes ago being kind of a weakness with this team. He kind of has a good read on where the ball is and where it's going most of the time. And so from your big man, you got what you needed. And then I think Chance McMillan kind of stepping up into that role as well certainly helped you out.
Kerwin Walton, a little bit cold in this game, and King McClure was sure to tell you, or King McClure's partner. I don't think King McClure said it as much. Who's the guy that calls the game? I don't even know. He kept saying the team in red, and that was annoying to me. Just say the Red Raiders or Texas Tech. But yeah, Chance with 19, Joe Toussaint 21, Darian Williams 17. It's a pretty good run there. Pop Isaacs double digits again. Just keep seeing him go in, man. You'll be back. All right. Looking forward to Oklahoma State. That game in the midweek in Stillwater, back-to-back road games for Texas Tech. Kyle, are you afraid of the is it the Octagon of Doom? No, that's Kansas State. What do they call Oklahoma State's arena?
Historic Gallagher-Iba Arena.
Gallagher-Iba. Okay. All right. Well,
The historic Gallagher-Iba.
are you afraid of the historic Gallagher-Iba Arena?
No. I'm not. That doesn't mean we can't lose that game, but
Yeah, I will say Texas Tech might be their Super Bowl, so we'll see if they get a good punch off.
how about this team? We talk a lot about the football team and some perceived or alleged road struggles. How about year one under gas? Morgantown, Norman, Austin. So far, am I missing one? I think that's all, but
Yeah, I don't believe so.
not bad. That's not amazing either, but it's not easy to win road games in this conference. If you can win 4 in one season, I think that is pretty solid, especially for year one when you're still kind of building the foundation and getting some pieces that you want. I think that bodes well because even the Adams squad, I think they might have only won 2 or 3. They went undefeated at home, so they got 9 of their wins there, and then might have gone something like 2-7 on the road.
Something like that, yeah.
And that was a good team. I mean, that was a team that lost to a Final Four squad in the Sweet 16. Could have potentially gone further than that.
How do you beat Oklahoma State? It's a 70% matchup predictor on the FPI, BPI. You outscore them, and they give up more points than you. They give up more points than they score, which is not a conducive way to win. They have lost 3 straight to Oklahoma in overtime, to UCF at home, and then in Austin. But they beat BYU by 10 5 games ago at home. So, how do you beat Oklahoma State, Money?
Don't turn the ball over. Make your open shots. Have a pulse on defense. I really do think that's all it comes down to. If you can play a clean game, I think you feel pretty good about at least competing for most of this game and getting yourself into a position where you can have kind of one of your staples second half closings. But I mean, this Oklahoma State team, as you mentioned, terrible defensively. I think they're 13th in the Big 12 in conference only play and defensive efficiency right now, 10th in offense. They don't rebound well either, and they have a lot more size than you. They cannot shoot. They can score around the rim, and they can score inside the arc. I think that's something that you'll probably try to see them attack, especially if you don't have Warren Washington in that one, which would be a pretty quick turnaround from him not playing on Saturday and still wearing a boot. I don't imagine he'll play. That's not anything informed. It's just a guess. But yeah, I don't think you can beat yourself. Brandon Garrison is a guy they may try to go to, Mike Marsh, but even then, there's not a lot of scary things on this Oklahoma State team. But at this point, they're just kind of trying to fight for their lives, I imagine, try and get whatever else they have out of Mike Boynton this season, and then I imagine he'll be one of the guys looking for a new gig next year.
I want Warren Washington to play before the NCAA tournament if he's going to play in the tournament, so you're not going in cold. But on the road at Stillwater, already locking up 8 seed, and you probably don't have much upward trajectory to get to a 6 anymore. I don't know. It just seems like this is an easy rest game for Warren Washington. They have he's listed as a guard, but 6'5", 220 is their leading rebounder for the year. They've also got, traditional forwards and centers that they throw out there. but I don't think this is one of those bad matchups games that we've talked about with Texas when there's no Warren Washington and TCU and Houston and Baylor. So they might be bigger than you, but I don't think they're more athletic. I think Robert Jennings can probably hold his own this game, and EY. We briefly went past Kyron Lindsey not making the trip. Starter says, can we address what's going on with Kyron Lindsey, or is that bad vibes? I don't know what's going on with Kyron Lindsey. I don't want to speculate. I just know he wasn't on the trip. Do either of you want to talk about Kyron Lindsey, or do you want to avoid the bad vibes?
I just don't know anything, so it's not that it's bad vibes. All I know is the same exact social media speculation that everybody else has seen.
We know what his mom thinks, pretty much.
I guess I'll say that. I mean, it sounded, her version sounded not that feasible. Like, I'm trying to imagine that conversation. Hey, Kyron, you're not getting on the plane. Okay, coach, why is that? No reason. Okay. Like, that's just not a conversation that happens. If he was left off, it was for a reason, and I'm sure that reason was communicated to him. Now, whether that's a message he and his family want to put out on social media, who knows? But the real why, I mean, my guess is as good as anybody else's. I guess I'll add this as well. If you are a fan of Tech basketball and social media, and there's a certain profile of fan out there that's been like begging. Y'all remember when Kevon Moore was here?
Yeah.
And that team hit their rough patch? It was like, play Kevon Moore. Like, we put him in the game for 2 minutes and like nothing happened. I think there was a segment of this fan base that was like, all we need to do is play Lindsey, 32 minutes a game, and all this is going to go. Like, guys, the coaches see him in practice every day. If they're not playing him, the guy that just won us our 20th game after being dreadful last year, the guy that just locked up a tournament spot after completely whiffing last year, I think he knows what he's doing. Now, if we were some terrible program this year and like there were legitimate questions, okay, is Gass a good coach or not? And he wasn't playing Lindsey, I think it would lend a little more credibility to those feelings. It's like, hey, he's pretty much done everything right since the moment he was announced as the hire in terms of fan engagement and relations, roster construction, executing wins and losses. So, if he's not playing Kyron Lindsey or he's not traveling with the team, it's probably a good reason for it. And it's a little bit unwise, in my opinion, to think that we're going to outsmart the head coach on Twitter with some of these takes.
And there's got to be a good reason for that too, especially if you know that Warren Washington isn't going to play and how thin you are in that front court. Like there's got to be a damn good reason that, I don't have the answer to because I'm not in practice every day, but yeah.
I just kind of go back to the feet on the jersey Instagram story. And then he was like, no, I wanted to show my shoes off. It's like, your feet were on the jersey. You just got 30 seconds of playing time. I don't know. You just kind of start to piece some things together. Let's see. The combine happened this week, or at least, it happened. I don't know why I was trying to say at least. Tyler Owens nearly set the broad jump record. Rabbit was a couple of tenths of a second off of one of the best safety times of all time. I think he led all safeties in this combine in the 40. Austin McNamara was there. Allegedly, I did not see any Austin McNamara hype through the combine. And then Miles Cole had one of the best RAS scores since 1987. Kyle, this seemed to excite you pretty good, having some athletes at the combine. But you brought up some interesting conversation points in the Discord if you want to throw them out here. Is it more impressive? I'm going to try to paraphrase. Is it more impressive to have combine freaks, or does it make it less impressive that you have combine freaks and they didn't perform at Texas Tech?
That's a good question. Before we get there, because I think there's some nuance to that answer, want to put some of this in perspective. And if you want to read a complete breakdown of this, it's on our Patreon, which you can unlock for $5 a month, patreon.com/Gamblin Gauchos. That's also where you get our second weekly episode exclusively over there. So yeah, Tyler Owens jumped really far. Some of these guys ran fast, and like I'd never heard of RAS or RAS until this week. I'm not a big combine or NFL draft guru. And so I went back trying to just find some historical context for what these numbers mean. And Tyler Owens at 6'2", 216 pounds with a 41-inch vertical and a 12'2" broad jump. He's basically an athletic anomaly or freak. So he's like his arm length is 94th percentile at the safety position, wingspan 93rd, height 87th, weight 83rd. Like his overall athletic composite, according to this one, it's called A to Z. Again, don't know what this is. It says he's in the 98th percentile athletically. And so his broad jump, not only was it second best all time, something crazy like most guys don't even hit 11 feet, and he was 12 feet 2 inches. And so the world record was like way out there versus what even the elite explosive guys do every year. And the guy who jumped further than him, Rob, I know you're familiar with him. A lot of Cowboys fans probably are, Byron Jones. He was this nobody before the NFL Combine. He played at UConn, decent production. I think Mel Kiper, somebody else said he was like the 25th best corner in the class. So probably not a guy that's going to get drafted, probably going undrafted free agent, maybe getting a training camp invite, and that was it. He jumps 12'2". His vertical was like 44, and he zooms up the charts as a first-round pick. Not only that, but like produces, at least for a little while. He became the highest paid corner in the league at one point in time. And so this isn't just some like, oh, that's crazy that he jumped far. Who cares? NFL scouts and GMs care a lot about these metrics. And we can debate like how useful is it if a guy runs in a straight line for 40 yards really fast? Like, does that translate to football success? I found a list of guys in the last decade, so 2015 NFL Combine through 2024 NFL Combine. And these are the guys that jumped 11.6 or further. Now, mind you, Tyler Owens was 12.2, so he beat some of these guys by as many as 8 inches. But it's a first-round pick, third-round pick, second-round pick, third-round pick, one undrafted free agent, second-round pick, first-round pick, sixth-round pick, sixth-round pick, second-round pick. So the vast majority of these guys jumping anywhere close to what Tyler Owens jumped are top 3 rounds. I don't think he's going to go that high. In fact, I'm 99% sure he's not going to go that high. But it would not shock me at all if in the 5th round, 6th round, some team says this guy is an alien, like from outer space or somewhere. Let's take a flyer on him because it's late in the draft and who else are we going to pick at this juncture? And they're going to sell themselves on the idea that his athleticism is elite. We'll coach him up, even though the production wasn't there in college. I totally believe at this point. And he was about to run the 40, by the way. Pulled his groin, I think. He was the favorite in Vegas to run the fastest 40. And Xavier Worthy, I think, ran a 4.21. And Nate Wiggins from Clemson ran a 4.22. Not saying Tyler Owens definitely would have beat those guys, even if he was quite a ways behind them at 4.3 flat. Had he run 4.3 flat with his vertical jump and broad jump, I mean, he would have, I think, kind of shot up some draft boards. He still has his pro day to run his 40. But yeah, pretty much anybody as big as Tyler Owens, jumping as high and far as he did and running as fast as we think he can run is like a lock to get drafted. And I'm not sure I thought of Tyler Owens as that kind of prospect going into the combine.
We always heard about how good of an athlete he was, but I don't think we ever saw it in a game. You know what? I'll push back on that a little bit. The bowl game against Ole Miss, I thought he looked like a freak. He had the pick. He chased down that guy and was running the opposite direction and still like hit him really hard. And I was like, wow, that guy, where was he all year? But I don't really think I don't know. It didn't seem like he flashed athletically this season.
I mean, I do recall him covering ground fast, but he looked lost in coverage.
Right.
They moved him to spur, I think, because he wasn't that good in coverage. And I think that's what some team is going to take a flyer on him for. Is like, hey, when we need 5 or 6 DBs on the field, we can do worse than this. You can do a lot worse than a 6'2", 215-pound gunner on special teams. Like, I think he's got a real shot. I'm almost positive he'll be drafted. I think he's got a good shot to make a final roster as kind of a gadget piece for special teams and DB-heavy packages, which is not, again, like if you blindfolded me and just said, here's his college production, I'd be like, no, this is not even close to an NFL guy. But again, historically, looking at some of these other metrics of athleticism, this is what NFL teams value. Now, Dadrian Demerson, different story, incredibly productive in college. I think I looked back, 200-plus career tackles, 10 or 11 interceptions. He was a guy that was invited to the Shrine Bowl, all-conference type producer, but he's small. He's 5'10", 197 at the combine. Ran the fastest 40 among safeties, also hit the fastest top-end speed in the 40-yard dash among safeties. 8th best vertical among safeties, tied for the 9th best broad jump among safeties. So I think like speed is great. The other athleticism is good. Didn't wow in the same way that Tyler Owens did. But yeah, like how many safeties, if I had more time, I would love to try to find this out. How many safeties ran a 4.41 or better with 200 career tackles and 10 plus interceptions coming out of college? I would guess it's a very, very, very short list. And he's getting some buzz now, going back to even the Shrine Bowl. I've seen different analysts say he's a top 100 player on their board. Another analyst saying he's going day 2, which would be round 3 at worst. That would be a top 96-ish pick, depending on if there's compensatory stuff in there. So yeah, like each analyst has their own opinion on which prospects are better, and especially when you get into the middle rounds, I feel like there's a lot more. Like we know which guys are top 10. There's sort of a lot of fluidity and gray area in between rounds 3 and 5. But it wouldn't shock me at this point, based on some of the buzz he's getting, if he's a day 2, first 3 rounds type player. His versatility has been praised. So like he can play deep safety, he can play nickel. I think some team is going to fall in love with his combine performance, plus his production, plus his performance in the Shrine Bowl, like all that, and take a chance on him. I don't think he'll slip past the 4th round at worst.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to say he's the first Red Raider off the board because he had the measurables in the combine and performed.
And I was talking to my wife about this, bless her heart, who's pretending to be interested in the NFL combine. But I was like, Tyler Owens is only getting this love. Like it's nothing that he did on the field. If Tyler Owens was 5'10" and his 40 were a tick slower, his vertical were a tick lower, like he's not on anybody's draft board. But because he's 6'2", 215 and can jump that high, like somebody's going to take a flyer on him. I was like, Rabbit's the opposite. If he was 6'1" instead of 5'10", or if he weighed 210 instead of 197, he's like a first rounder with these same measurables in terms of his speed and explosiveness and production. And that's the conundrum every NFL scout and front office is facing. Is like, this guy was a dude in college, but he's short or he's slow. This guy didn't do anything in college, but he's got elite athleticism even for the NFL. And like, you've got prospects in between there. But yeah, I think he'll definitely be the first Red Raider taken, probably in like the Kiki QT, Eric Ezukama, Zach McPherson range, if we're trying to put this into historical context. So that was pretty cool to see him kind of flying up the boards, because I didn't think of him as an NFL prospect before this season. I don't know if y'all thought differently, but maybe like a fringe guy, but certainly not top 100 type guy.
Certainly of the guys available from Texas Tech, I thought he had the best shot, but yeah, well, him and Taj, and then Taj came back. I will say this about Tyler Owens. We kind of blazed through it, but if he is smart, which a couple of interview questions maybe beg to differ on that. If he is smart, if he has a good agent, he could be. Do you know the name Matthew Slater?
No.
Patriots Hall of Famer, played special teams for 20 years. I mean, Tyler Owens could be an elite gunner, punt blocker, specialist on special teams. A little bit of what Cody Davis has done in his NFL career. I mean, he's 10 years in now, 2008, 12 years in. You get there in 2009, whatever it's been. He's been there quite a while, and he's been playing special teams. Certainly played some safety in his career, but you can be that guy. You can be a linebacker safety in the NFL and play for a long time and just do your role. So.
Yeah, and the speed at that size and weight is pretty remarkable. Like, everybody made a huge deal, deservedly so, about Xavier Worthy's 40 time. I think it was the fastest in combine history.
Yeah.
But he weighs $165, and he's still going to be a first-round pick. Like, the weight is going to not make teams hesitate on him, but like it might lower his ceiling as a player if he's injury prone or they don't want to send him over the middle or whatever. But if you've got a gunner that can run a 4.25, which, like, Owens, according to the odds makers, was projected to be kind of in that range. I mean, like, that's incredible for special teams. It makes him a much more durable player than a guy like Xavier Worthy. Okay, the last guy I want to talk about is Miles Cole, who, same deal in the Ole Miss game. I was like, okay, NFL measurables, he flashed. Like, if he has a Tyree Wilson type season next year, he's going to be high on everybody's draft boards. Didn't have anything close to a Tyree Wilson season. In fact, like, I don't remember a Miles Cole play this year. I know that he was out there, and I'm sure that he recorded some stats, but I don't remember, like, oh, he chased down the quarterback on that play, or if I'm missing one.
He had a sack against Texas, but I believe that was 2 years ago. That's like the play I remember him from.
I do remember, though, when he first transferred in, Blanchard already knew that whenever Miles Cole got to the NFL Combine, that he would have the largest wingspan in Combine history. Like, they knew that when they took him out of Louisiana Monroe.
Yep.
So this was a guy that probably got his scholarship offer at Tech strictly because his size and long arms. So, Rob, you mentioned this RAS or RAS deal. It's some sort of measurement of overall athleticism. It's your height, weight, 40 time, your splits, your broad jump, vertical.
Yeah.
That this guy compiles. And he has Miles Cole as the 8th most athletic defensive end since 1987, which is out of like 1,600 plus defensive ends. He's in the top 0.5% of athleticism. The other 20 guys on that list, there was like, again, this is all on Patreon in full. I can't remember off the top of my head. There's like 6 number 1 picks, plus Aiden Hutchinson, who was number 2. There's all pros, there's pro bowlers. The guy who's number 1 on the list is from Gardner Webb. He was a 7th round pick, basically did nothing. Everybody else on the list, at minimum, was like a 5-year pro, if not elite at their position, making Pro Bowls and all pros. I'm not saying that means Miles Cole is destined to be an all pro, but again, these front offices are going to see that and go, he's with extremely good company here. If there's even a 10% chance that he scratches the surface of what these guys did, then he's worth the draft pick. Like, I'm 100% convinced now he and Tyler Owens will be drafted, and I didn't necessarily think that. And again, I don't know a lot about the NFL draft. I'm not like some big guru. But I think all 3 are going to be drafted based on this insane athleticism. And again, this isn't just like good or great athleticism. It's like, hey, we haven't seen a guy like this, or we've only seen a handful of guys like this ever, that, you know, were at least this size, had this kind of measurement or speed. Now, to tie it back to your original question, Rob, what does that mean for our recruiting? I think it's different when you take a guy, I'm not trying to rag on anybody, but like Tyler Owens was a 4-star prospect, went to Texas. Guess it wasn't really panning out through 3 years, so he comes here. So like the Texas coaching staff didn't really get to maximize his potential. Texas Tech staff, same deal. I would say like he didn't turn into some athletic freak on the field in terms of his production. And now an NFL team is going to convince themselves that they can do it, and maybe they can. I hope that they can. To me, that's a little different than taking a group of 5 transfer out of Louisiana Monroe like Miles Cole and saying, hey, he's 6'6", 278. He has longer arms than anybody in the country. And taking a shot there and saying maybe it'll translate when he moves up a division. Again, he kind of flashed in spots but didn't put together a full season like maybe we wanted to. And then Rabbit was a high school recruit from the Wells era that was a holdover. So you love to see that development, but I don't know if like Blanchard and McGuire and Nance and those guys can take credit for recruiting Rabbit because he was already here when they arrived. But having said that, even though I don't want to pick on Rabbit because he's going to be, it sounds like a top 100 pick, and he was incredibly productive in college. But Miles Cole and Tyler Owens, like let's say that they were quote unquote busts in college, like didn't quite live up to the hype, especially when you compare them to the lists they're on now in terms of NFL measurables. Like they're both sitting next to all pros, Hall of Famers, first round picks, again, based on combine performance only. But odds are, if you're constructing a roster with 85 guys on it, that same deal. You go, hey, nobody ran the 100 meters in high school as fast as this kid since so-and-so. Or nobody has a wingspan like this kid coming out of Texas high schools in the last decade or whatever. And your roster looks like that from top to bottom, 85 guys. I think there's going to be enough hits, enough guys with the potential and the freakish athleticism that do turn it into actual football prowess and production to form some really, really good teams. And I think that's basically what the Baylor teams were. They had a couple combine warriors. I think their corner a couple years ago ran the fastest 40 time in combine history until Xavier Worthy broke it. And then they, of course, had other guys like Jalen Petrie and some incredibly productive dudes as well. So, yeah, like I don't want to get too bogged down on, well, they didn't turn Tyler Owens or Miles Cole into these all Big 12 type guys. I think it's a bit of a numbers game. And when you stack an entire football roster full of like linebackers that are elite hurdlers and offensive linemen who can dunk a basketball, offensive linemen that have longer arms than Miles Cole even, insane sprinter speed, triple jumpers, high jumpers, whatever it is. We kind of heard it all in terms of the guys they plucked out of the high school ranks. I think that'll bear fruit eventually. And maybe not all those guys translates from track star to football star. But again, it's a numbers game in football, and you've got 85 scholarship spots to churn out. Even if only a third of those guys hit at that elite level, like that's more than a two deep of absolute ballers. So I'm still really good with the strategy. I think it'll pay dividends. And, this combine might have just been sort of scratching the surface of what we might see in the future when they get these guys straight out of high school and then they spend 4 years in Lubbock. So I'm still excited. I lean more on that side that it's crazy that they're finding these guys with these types of metrics and measurements, more so than like I lean to the side of, well, why didn't they turn Tyler Owens into an all Big 12 safety?
Just looked up 2 mock drafts for Rabbit, Dadrian Taylor Demerson. Jets in the 4th round, Packers in the 3rd. The rest of them still updating. You can do the little draft board watcher or whatever, but the rest are still updating until after the combine. So
I'm just gonna lob something out there. The Chiefs, if they do indeed make a deal with Chris Jones and they say we don't have the money for L'Jarius Sneed and they trade him away, they might need a nickel corner.
Yeah, it's true.
I would love to see Rabbit to the Chiefs in the 3rd or 4th round, especially if they get an extra 1st or 2nd by trading L'Jarius Sneed and they can get a couple dudes up there and then get Rabbit. And we had Mahomes and Rabbit on the same team. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. He's a good blitzer too. I feel like Spags would like him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Show him overtime in Laramie. He got through.
He almost got there.
And then Tyler Owens was on another planet back there in the end zone.
Virginia too, another planet. Can the Chiefs get Xavier Worthy? Great question, starter. I hope not.
No.
I like Xavier Worthy. I think he might be good, but once $165, never getting bigger. Man, somebody was calling him lazy on Twitter. I don't think it's that, but slight receivers just don't produce well in the NFL for long periods of time. They don't.
Yeah, I think it's an insanely deep receivers class. I think as many as 11 have been mocked in the top 50. So again, especially if the Chiefs maneuver a little bit with L'Jarius Sneed, and they have, like, let's call it 3 picks in the top 64 with their first and their second. They can get a receiver. I don't know if he's the right one, especially with the way teams play the Chiefs now. Like, everybody plays them in a way that's like, we're not getting beat over the top. We're not getting beat over the top. So I don't know if drafting the guy who's, I don't want to say exclusive trait or exclusive upside is going deep, but that's like basically his game. Like, I don't know if that's the right fit. I would like to see them get a more complete receiver, like a second Rashee Rice, to put opposite of Rashee Rice and say, like, we're going to mostly need you to run good routes, shallow and intermediate. We'll go over the top when we can, but if everybody's playing us with 2 high safeties, I don't know if that's the right guy for their roster right now.
Yeah, now, certainly, he could be Deshaun Jackson. He could be. Deshaun Jackson was 5'10", I don't know, 175. So, I don't know.
Hey, so now that we've got 3 Red Raiders very likely to be drafted, and I'm going to go ahead and put out there say all 3 will be drafted, plus Austin McNamara. I don't know how often punters get drafted.
We'll get a shot.
They're going to need somebody to represent them. Every player needs an agent. Now, I don't know. I might be offering something up here that, who knows? I don't think Barnett, Howard, and Williams does sports agency, but
you need a lawyer on retainer as well.
Yeah, I think they would try it out, especially if Rabbit's going to get top 100 kind of draft pick money. That's solid. So, Rabbit, if you're listening, if you want an agent and you don't have one yet, hit up our friends over at Barnett, Howard, and Williams, bhwlawfirm.com. They're based in Fort Worth, but they handle cases all across the state of Texas. Criminal defense, you get hurt on the job, catastrophic injury, Title IX student litigation, and maybe they'll start representing NFL players in the near future. They hope you never need them, unless you're an NFL draft pick, of course. But they're in your corner if you do. bhwlawfirm.com if you want to learn more. I like that comment about Xavier Worthy, about the Chiefs trading. They won't need Worthy because they're going to trade Sneed for Justin Jefferson. I'll allow it.
Yeah.
Dude.
It'd be Sneed and 2 firsts. How many firsts would you need to get Justin Jefferson? I mean, think about the haul Tyreek Hill had. Justin Jefferson arguably has been better than Tyreek Hill early in his career.
Justin Jefferson better than everybody early in his career. He broke every single first 2 or most in the first 2 seasons record that there is.
Goat track.
Probably fell off a little bit because he missed so many games this year and in year 3. I don't think the Chiefs could afford him, though. Like, he's going to be up for a contract extension soon, and he's going to be the highest paid receiver in the league. So, kind of a short-term fix for the Chiefs before they probably have to move off of him again.
Yeah, I would assume the Chiefs go more toward some either a little older guy like a ring chaser or just somebody who has flashed and they can get cheaper. By the way, they have a left tackle in free agency right now available that if you only need 10 games out of him, he will be great for 10 games. That's Tyron Smith, not coming back to the Cowboys.
Another thing maybe to monitor for the Chiefs, they can't get Brock Bowers, but there's a couple other tight ends mocked closer to like position number 30.
The Michigan guy.
I don't know if they want to use a first on Travis Kelce's replacement. Maybe it's still a little bit early for that. I feel like they're in a window now where it's win now, and they don't want to draft a guy in round 1 that they think isn't going to be on the field much next year.
Yeah.
So who knows what direction they can go. But
they run 3 tight end sets more than anybody else.
Yeah, maybe they can use the right guy, especially if they're not going to invest in a free agent wide receiver. They say we'll just use tight ends as pass catchers.
All right. Anything that we missed? I want to talk about space. I want to get into it, but I want to get into it on Wednesday.
Do you want to do any time-sensitive mailbag and baseball?
I did not see any time-sensitive mailbag. You looked through it as well. Was there one that you wanted to answer tonight? I thought they could all last until Wednesday.
Yeah, it's mostly just the space stuff. So if we're going to hold off on that till Wednesday, we can.
I really don't. I mean, space will be there on Wednesday, I believe.
If it was ever there at all.
I know the story's hot this weekend, but
yeah.
Texas Tech baseball beat Gardner-Webb this weekend. They have the most hits per game in the country at 14.2, ahead of Florida State, St. Louis, Evansville, Wofford, Virginia, TCU, just some high-ranking teams. Dallas Baptist. Texas lost twice this weekend to better teams. Texas State beat them. And then, did you see they were up 10-3 on Vanderbilt? And their Occupy Left Field Twitter account tweeted in all caps, "Apologize to us, you bums. Everyone said we weren't good yesterday. You stink, you bums. Apologize. Get on your knees and beg for forgiveness because we're good again. It's 10-3. And they lost 11-10 against Vanderbilt. So they lost twice this weekend. You play them next weekend. So there you go. That's why I brought that up. I'm not just being a UT hater. Oh, they lost 3 times. They went 0 for 3. I thought they just lost twice.
Do we have a midweek this week before that?
New Mexico. New Mexico.
God. Okay. Remember when we lost to New Mexico last year? That sucked.
Yeah, and I believe it's in New Mexico.
It was like 13-11.
Yeah, disgusting. Mac Hewer looked decent this weekend in his first starting role. Otherwise, baseball is baseballing. I would love to get more into it. There's a lot of lineup stuff going on that I don't understand. Obviously, Bazell has been out, but you've got Cash not playing on Friday and then leading off 2 games. Gavin Cash, the power hitter. Jeffrey Epstein, the New York financier. Have you seen that video?
I don't think so. That doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, that's hilarious. You've got Gavin Cash, the power hitter, leading up. You all right?
Yeah.
Leading off. You've got Landon Stripling playing first base on Friday, and then Gavin Cash leading off twice. On Saturday, he had 4 doubles and a home run. It's just, I don't know. Maxie's been catching this weekend, obviously, but Rivers caught on Friday instead of Maxie, the freshman. And then you have Travis Sanders playing a little bit this weekend. Everybody's like, "Oh, where's Tracer Lopez?" Because Austin Green played second on Friday, and then you had 2 other guys play second the rest of the weekend. It's just, I think you're too deep to be settled so far. And you usually have like a whole nother month to get settled. But Big 12 play is Big 12 play around the corner. So I don't know. I don't know if you're going to be settled in the first 2 or 3 series of Big 12 play.
Damian Bravo, most improved player on the team.
He's hitting 570. So far, yeah, for sure.
He was like a midweek guy or a pinch hit guy last year, and he's just destroying the baseball.
He was a reliever last year.
Yeah. He looks good. Has the pitching been the same every weekend?
Till this weekend, yeah.
So when K-Rob, Jack Washburn, and who started on Sunday this weekend?
Jack Washburn on Sunday, Mac Hewer on Saturday.
Got it.
And then Zane Petty.
Okay. That's interesting.
So, yeah, that was
one of those 4 will have to slot in as the midweek guy. The bullpen looks interesting. It looks like maybe Ryan Free is Beckles' role. He's going to be the closer. They're going to try to pitch him Friday and Sunday, it seems.
Hope so.
And then Josh Sanders looks like the Ryan Free setup guy that they want to use for like middle relief or key relief spots. And then Trenton Parrish came in today, looked fiery as always, got out of a bases loaded jam, struck out a bunch of dudes.
Yep.
I love watching him pitch. So I'll be curious how the pitching rotation shakes out as well. But like you said, a lot of depth up and down the lineup too that seems like it still needs some sorting out.
And you're going to have to do it quick. Of course, I mean, if Stripling's playing, he hit 2 home runs in a game. If Washburn's playing in the outfield, he hit 2 home runs in a game. Gavin Cash, again, hit 4 doubles and a home run in a game. I mean, you're not really going wrong with anybody. Austin Green, I think, needs to be in the lineup. Bravo needs to be in the lineup. And you also have the DH role that has been played by 6 different guys, I think, so far this year. So, all right, ultimate roster to close the show.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Money, you ready?
Wait, but first we need Money's thoughts on baseball.
Okay.
That's good.
That's good.
I checked something while we're pulling up the ultimate roster. I had a hunch about something, and so I checked it. Chance McMillan this year, 38.9% 3-point shooter. That's good. 3rd best on the team. Can you guess his percentage at home this year and on the road this year?
Ooh.
Shoot.
Man. He's what, 38 for the season?
38.9.
I'm going to guess, well, so I can't remember individual games where he like went off and if they were home or away. I'm going to guess this is a trick question and that it's identical at both home and away.
No, his two big games were at home. No, he had a big game at Oklahoma. Ooh. I think it's better at home though. So he had his 8 3-point game at home. No, wait, was that on the road too?
That's what they want you to think.
Oh, I'm going road split. He's better on the road. 45% on the road.
Significantly better on the road. I think a game you might be missing is the Butler game, which he was very, very good in. On the road this year, it is a bit of a smaller sample size. On the road, 29 of 56. That's 51.8% from deep. 51.8%. At home, 21 of 73. It's 28.8.
Are the neutral site games, are those counted as road, like away from home?
They are completely separate. In 4 neutral site games, he is 6 of 15, which is 40%, right about season average.
So another quick follow-up. When we make the NCAA tournament, will any of those games be at the USA or will those be neutral site or away games?
Got one more, baby.
Neutral site.
And Big 12 tourney. So Chance is going to shoot 52% in the NCAA tournament. We know that.
Confirmed.
If we get Warren Washington back, look out.
He went 8 of 10 at Butler. That's the game I was thinking.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah. And then 6 of 8 at Oklahoma.
I don't think I could go 8 for 10 shooting free throws in my driveway without crowd noise and all that.
And then 5 of 11 this weekend. He went 0 for 6 at Iowa State and is still shooting 50%. Oh, he went 5 of 9 back-to-back, 6 of 8, 5 of 9 in back-to-back games on the road at Oklahoma and TCU. Unreal.
It's good to have him back.
All right, this is the South will rise again ultimate roster play. Must have played for an AFC South or NFC South team that did not make the playoffs in 2023. Only stats from 2023 will be applied.
Okay.
All right.
So let's talk about which teams we can take here. It's
Okay.
Saints, Panthers.
Yeah.
The Bucks made the playoffs. Who's the 4th team in the NFC South? Falcons. Then the AFC South would be Titans, Colts,
Jags.
We can't use the Texans. So Jags, I think we have to do Travis Etienne. He had a really good season.
And Trevor Lawrence, huh?
It was okay.
Who else?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I don't know if we should.
Ritter.
No.
Hope at a revolving door after 8K.
Yeah, it's got to be Lawrence. Yeah.
Lawrence ATN at running back and quarterback.
Honestly, Are we doing all Jags? Evan Ingram had a good season at tight end.
We going yeah, Pitts. Pitts had a good season. Kyle Pitts.
He had
Falcons.
huge stretches though where they just like didn't throw to him.
All right, let's go flex. Well, hold on. Wide receiver. Let's go wide receiver. Michael Pittman Jr. Calvin Ridley. We're going all Jags.
There's no elite. So there's Christian Kirk, Chris Olave. Surely no Panthers receiver.
No.
Or Falcons receiver.
Adam Thielen. Drake London.
Adam Thielen. He fell off in the second half, but he came out of the gates pretty good. I think Adam Thielen should be either the flex or the receiver.
DeAndre Hopkins.
Ooh, Nuke. Forgot he was with the Texans. I mean, Titans. Are we getting past Derrick Henry as a legacy play in the flex?
Yeah, because it's only from this season, right?
Right, Titans.
I don't think he had that good. He didn't have a better year than ETN. I mean, maybe he gets flex.
And then Bijan was the only other running back I would put anywhere.
Bijan, pretty good fantasy player because they threw to him a lot, I think. Or maybe that's just what people thought was going to happen.
All right. I like I think Calvin Ridley was the best for the Jags. Michael Pittman, the best for the Colts. Drake London, probably the best on the Falcons.
I think Christian Kirk might have outproduced Calvin Ridley this year.
Okay. Is that who you're settling on there? I don't have a strong feeling on the wide receiver.
Man.
Olave.
Saints.
He was definitely their best. I think, yeah. Maybe Olave and Pittman. Otherwise, it's very Jags heavy.
Pittman at the flex?
Yeah, like Olave receiver, Pittman at the flex. Although I will not be surprised if Christian Kirk should have been one of those two whenever we see the ideal roster. I think they're all really close, though.
Let's send it.
Did you do Evan Ingram for tight end?
Yeah. Well, the Jags were like 10-0 and then fell off. So all A pluses.
That's good.
And 12 points off of a perfect score.
Damn, was it Christian Kirk?
Derrick Henry.
Oh, Dick.
Michael Pittman was the wide receiver one. We got all the Jags. And then it was Derrick Henry legacy play at the.
Wow. He's still, I mean, I guess even in a down year, still productive.
All right. That's all I got. Final thoughts. Go Derrick Henry.
One name for football fans to consider or remember, Jerick McKinnon. Not an all-pro, not even a starter most places he's been. Vikings took him in the third round. He was a triple option quarterback from Georgia Southern. Went to the combine, ran really fast, benched a lot, jumped really high. And the Viking strategy back then was let's draft the best athletes and mold them into football players. He went round 3. So if you're skeptical about this Miles Cole, Tyler Owens hype, remember guys like Jerick McKinnon. It takes one front office to go, wow, this guy is an elite athlete. We can make him a football player. I think all 3 of those guys are going to get drafted. Rabbit for sure. I think the other 2 are going to be drafted as well.
Agreed. All right. See you Wednesday.
Love y'all.